What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Weekend Roundup here on Touchline Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the content going up on the channel. Welcome back to the Premier League. Definitely where I'm going to focus this weekend's video, starting, of course, with Manchester City and Chelsea, highest profile matchup of the opening weekend of the season. Manchester City 2-0 win. Another victory over Chelsea. Enzo Maresca does not get the better of Pep Guardiola in their first meeting. And Manchester City, there's not too much to say here. My bigger question in the early part of the season is, can they string wins together and not drop points like they have the past couple seasons? And actually get to a point where they're not chasing from behind, they're actually leading the title race basically from start to finish. First game of the season hasn't been where that's happened, though. So one game doesn't really change any of that. That's still my question. Haaland gets his goal. Kovacic adds the second. It wasn't a spectacular performance. It's also, the other notable thing here, important for them to get a win against a very talented, and I'll get to the Chelsea side of this, but a very talented opponent on the road without Rodri in the lineup. When they have had bad stretches, it has been because Rodri has not been in the team. To come away with 3 points is a very promising thing without Rodri. Some interesting lineup decisions. Savinho comes in. He was absolutely fantastic and then gets yanked at halftime for Phil Foden. And only Manchester City can just take the best player in the Premier League arguably last season and just pop him on the bench for the opener for the next season because, well, there are other players who can do something similar to Phil Foden. That's just how deep Manchester City are. All that aside, I want to focus more on the Chelsea part of this because general theme of the weekend is there weren't too many surprises. From a Chelsea standpoint, I have been consistent in this. I will continue to be consistent in this. I don't care what signings are made. I don't care who the manager is. I don't care. I just don't care until something actually changes on the field that makes me believe something other than what we have seen under Todd Boehly is going to happen. And that game looked an awful lot. And I know it was Manchester City, and I know it's one game, so it's not like this can be some kind of sweeping declaration about how the season is going to go. But that looked an awful lot like last season. At times, they look really good. You start to kind of see it coming together. You see a vision. They possess the ball quite well. And then you also see Nicholas Jackson needlessly wandering just offside. I think he scores that goal if he stays onside. I don't think him being offside made any difference whatsoever. But he was just offside because he wasn't paying attention. And you see a bad giveaway from Robert Sanchez in goal. Marc Cucurella had a terrible first half. The aforementioned Savinho had a lot of fun on that side of the field. The midfielders were not anything extraordinary, despite all of the money that's been pumped into that part of the field. It was just a lot of the same. Outside of the fact that you have the Conor Gallagher situation still going, and Raheem Sterling's not even in the squad, and all of that. And the fact that they need to figure out what to do with the rest of these players. But it just looked and felt the same. It's not that they're not talented. It's the lack of attention to detail, the lack of finishing. They just don't look convincing. And quite frankly, they just don't scare me. And to me, they're finishing somewhere between 6th and 8th until that changes. Now, it could change. This is game one under Enzo Maresca. This is game one of the season. Like I said, I am not somebody who's going to go make sweeping declarations because of this. And of course, it's one of the most difficult games you're going to play all season. Might be the second, it's probably the second or third most difficult on your fixture list. There's plenty of time for this to change. But it looked and felt to me exactly like last season, and that's not a good thing if you're Chelsea. Contrast that to Manchester United, another team I want to mention here. It's a win against Fulham that they, from a scoreline standpoint, had to work harder to get than they should have. but it looked different. Got to give Manchester United credit. This was not just counterattacks and transition-based creating of opportunities. They actually broke a team down. Bruno Fernandes kept finding really good, dangerous spots, and the ball kept finding him. He just couldn't finish. On another day, he has a hat trick. Now, the next step is actually finishing. But I would much rather have it look like that than previous iterations of Manchester United, who just seem to have no clue what to do when an opponent just sits there and makes them break them down. Again, one game. Who knows if this continues? Still got plenty of questions. Not buying anything yet. But if you are Erik ten Hag, the manager undoubtedly under the most pressure in this league to get off to a good start, not only getting the 3 points, the actual result, but the performance and the way it looked, you have got to feel really, really good. That was about as well as that could have gone outside of they should have scored some more goals. But very, very positive from United. I was impressed. Not particularly impressed with Chelsea, about what I expected. I thought United looked really good. Yes, it's Fulham, it's at home, it's a game you should win. It's nice to see Joshua Zirkzee already contributing, and he was good when he came in, obviously got the goal. We'll see if it continues. But that was really, really promising from United. A couple other games to touch on real quickly. Not the most inspiring performance in the world from Liverpool. Ipswich Town actually looked pretty good for that first half. Eventually, the talent level just won out. Still kind of curious to see what this is going to look like under Arne Slot. Again, first game, can't draw too many conclusions. I did like what I saw from Ipswich, though. It made me more confident in their ability to really make a run at staying up. And I do think that's one team that we can actually gain something from because we've never seen them in the Premier League before. This group of players and this manager and all of that. And they hung in there. They've got to take some confidence from that, even though they didn't get any points. It's just cool to see the environment, see them back in the Premier League. Aston Villa beat West Ham. That game was about as balanced as you expected it to be. Really, really close. Finally get that decisive goal. I think West Ham are going to be better. It still doesn't look like they're quite sure what to do under Julian Lopetegui, which I keep repeating myself, but totally understandable considering this is game one. My bigger question with Villa is not the talent level, but can they continue this and can they keep it up over a season when they've lost a little bit of depth, when their squad isn't quite as good as last season? None of that's going to be decided in game one, but Villa off to a good start. And it's important to rack up points before the Champions League starts coming too. These are the games where you can field your best 11 and you're not worried about rotation and wear and tear and all of that. So got to take advantage. Aston Villa were able to do that. Southampton, missed opportunity. It's not every day you go play against a team you're not expected to take points from. You get to play that long up a man. Not only can you not score, but you concede a goal, so you still end up losing. It's one of those, and this sport is really kind of cruel in this sense, where you just take the score and you feel just fine if you're Southampton. That's not a game you're expected to take points from. But you explain what happened and the way the game played out, and you are bitterly disappointed to come away with nothing. Newcastle, I've said this before, I'm all in on Newcastle this season. I expect them to bounce back. They pick up 3 points right there. Those are just some general Premier League thoughts as the season gets underway. The other thing I want to talk about real quickly is Landon Donovan being hired on an interim basis by the San Diego Wave. I could go on and on about this. I'm going to try and keep it short. What I do want to say is this. It is hard to take this hire seriously and not wonder if part of this is a publicity stunt, considering, or at least a PR move. Maybe publicity stunt is going too far, but a PR-driven decision, considering what has happened at that club, the questions that are being asked about the culture and the workplace, and the fact that Landon Donovan has never managed in the women's soccer sphere. His resume is not, from a coaching standpoint, is not impressive, and it is limited. Whereas you look at, the Washington Spirit just hired the coach of the best team in the world. You go look at some of these other hires. Say what you want about Vlatko Andonovski. Vlatko Andonovski can coach, and Vlatko Andonovski can coach in the NWSL, and he's showing with what he's doing with the Kansas City Current. Lauren Donaldson in Chicago. World Cup experience, did a great job with Jamaica. These coaches have credentials because this is supposed to be a league trying to be the best in the world. And it's right there. I mean, you can have conversations about the hierarchy because these teams don't play each other very much, but it is one of the best leagues in the world. It is trying to be the premier league on the women's side, setting the standard. Most of the other teams, when they hire coaches, are behaving like that and expecting that out of their coaches. San Diego was able to convince Casey Stoney to take this team over with nothing. Now, that's also a blank slate. I get that. There's a way you can flip that to be positive. But there were no promises made. Casey Stoney didn't exactly know what she was walking to. She was taking over an expansion franchise. And the replacement has limited experience, no top flight experience, and no experience on the women's game. These are the kind of things that make it hard to argue the NWSL is the standard bearer on the women's side. Now, we'll see if this actually goes somewhere. Maybe it really is just an interim basis and they just needed somebody, and we'll see. And this is not about Landon Donovan's ability to coach, by the way. He might be really good at this. He might do a great job. It's about the fact that he had access to this job. One of the most appealing jobs in the women's game. And I don't care if it's on an interim basis. They went out of their way to make this happen because they already had an interim coach. You take the name Landon Donovan away, and how in the world does the person with that resume get this job? Where he is now coaching Alex Morgan, the defending Shield winners, and the best center back in the world, among other things. I just find it hard to believe part of this was not about, hey, it's going to grab headlines, it's going to get people excited that Landon Donovan is here, it's going to distract from some of the other stuff going on. Because what is the other explanation for him getting this job? This is not supposed to be, this is where I'm going to end it. The NWSL is not a testing ground for coaches. That's what the USL Super League that just kicked off is for. That's what other clubs in Europe are for. That's what the college game is for. Everybody else had to earn their stripes and prove that they deserved an opportunity in the NWSL, because that's the way it should be, because that's the standard that should be set in this league. And the Wave decided otherwise. That is independent of whether this works or not. That is factual. The Landon Donovan doesn't have the credentials to do this. Again, doesn't mean it's going to be a failure. We're going to have to wait and see. He has every right to try and continue to grow his coaching, grow as a coach, build his resume, all of that. All I'm saying is the NWSL is not the place where that should be happening right now. The bar should be higher. But here we are. We'll see how it goes. That's all for the weekend roundup. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll see you next time.